Most people believe wealth is the goal. More money, more freedom, more options. And on the surface, that makes sense. Money solves problems. Money reduces stress. Money creates security. But if you watch closely, you'll notice something strange. Some people have money and still feel restless. Some feel anxious. Some feel trapped. Some feel empty. And some people with far less feel calm, grounded, unrushed, at ease. This is where the misunderstanding begins, because wealth and peace are not the same thing, and confusing them is one of the most expensive mistakes people make. Let's start with a simple truth. Money can remove certain stresses. It cannot remove internal noise. If your nervous system is chaotic, money doesn't calm it. It amplifies it. More choices, more responsibility, more pressure to get it right. Peace is not something money delivers automatically. Peace is something money can support, but only if the foundation already exists. Now let's talk about what people are actually chasing. When people say they want wealth, they usually mean they want relief. Relief from uncertainty, relief from pressure, relief from fear, relief from fear. They imagine money will quiet the constant mental chatter. But money doesn't quiet the mind. Capacity does. Now let's talk about the cost of chasing wealth without peace. When wealth is the primary goal, urgency enters the system. People rush. They compare. They overextend. They tolerate stress they shouldn't. They trade peace today for the promise of peace tomorrow. But tomorrow keeps moving. Now let's talk about lifestyle escalation. Without peace as the anchor, every increase in income becomes a new baseline. More spending, more commitments, more complexity. Stress doesn't disappear. It just changes form. Now let's talk about identity. If identity is tied to progress, then slowing down feels like failure. Rest feels unproductive. Stability feels boring. Contentment feels suspicious. So people keep pushing, not because they need to, but because stopping feels unsafe. Now let's talk about what peace actually is. Peace is not the absence of ambition. It's the absence of panic. Peace is the ability to sit with uncertainty without spiraling, to make decisions without urgency, to experience fluctuations without identity collapse. Peace is emotional regulation. Now let's talk about why peace is the real financial advantage. People with peace make better decisions. They don't chase hype. They don't panic sell. They don't overspend to regulate emotion. They don't rush growth. They let time do the work. And time is the most powerful financial force that exists. Now let's talk about how peace changes the experience of money. When peace is present, money feels lighter. Decisions feel clearer. Mistakes feel survivable. Progress feels steady. When peace is absent, money feels heavy. Decisions feel urgent. Mistakes feel catastrophic. Progress feels fragile. Same income, different experience. Now let's talk about the illusion of enough. Without peace, there is no finish line. More always feels necessary. Enough never arrives. Peace creates sufficiency, not because you stop wanting, but because wanting stops controlling you. Now let's talk about comparison. Comparison thrives in anxious systems. Peace weakens comparison. When you're regulated, other people's paths don't threaten you. Their success doesn't destabilize you. Their pace doesn't pressure you. Peace restores internal reference points. Now let's talk about the hidden benefit. People with peace don't just feel better. They often build more wealth over time because they're consistent, because they're patient, because they're not constantly undoing progress. Peace protects compounding. Now let's talk about why peace is hard. Because peace requires letting go of urgency, letting go of proving, letting go of constant striving. And urgency feels productive, but urgency is expensive. Now let's talk about what peace is not. Peace is not complacency. Peace is not stagnation. Peace is not giving up. Peace is sustainable ambition. Growth without burnout. Progress without panic. Discipline without punishment. Now let's talk about how peace is built, not through money, through design. Systems that reduce decision fatigue, rules that remove negotiation, boundaries that protect energy, pacing that respects the nervous system. Peace is engineered. Now let's talk about the paradox. When peace becomes the goal, wealth often follows, not explosively, not dramatically, but reliably, because peace allows consistency, and consistency compounds. Now let's talk about the final misunderstanding. People think peace comes after success. It doesn't. Peace comes before sustainable success. Success without peace is fragile. Peace without success is resilient. Resilience wins long term. Now let's talk about the final shift. Stop asking, how much more do I need? Start asking, how calm can my system become? Because calm systems outperform stressed ones in finance, in life, in health, in relationships. Now let's close with the truth. Wealth is a tool. Peace is a state. Tools are only useful in steady hands. If your financial journey leads to constant anxiety, pressure, and urgency, something is misaligned. Money was never meant to replace regulation, or self-trust, or emotional capacity. It was meant to support a life that already works. And the people who truly win financially aren't the ones who reach the highest number. They're the ones who built a life where money no longer dominates their inner world. That's real freedom. Not the ability to buy more, but the ability to be at ease regardless of the number. And once peace is present, money finally knows where it belongs. In the background, quiet, working for you, while you live. There's one last illusion worth dismantling, the illusion that peace is passive, that if you choose peace, you're opting out of growth. That calm means settling, that urgency is required for progress. This belief is deeply ingrained because modern culture rewards visible struggle. Busy looks productive, stress looks important, hustle looks admirable, peace looks suspicious. But peace is not the absence of effort, it's the absence of internal resistance. When resistance disappears, energy stops leaking. And leaked energy is one of the most expensive hidden costs in life. Now let's talk about internal resistance. Resistance shows up as overthinking, second-guessing, chronic urgency, emotional reactivity, constant comparison. These don't feel dramatic, they feel normal, but they drain attention, and attention is your most valuable asset. Peace returns attention to you. Now let's talk about why peaceful people often outperform anxious ones. They don't waste energy proving anything. They don't rush decisions to escape discomfort. They don't panic when outcomes fluctuate. They allow systems to work. This is why calm investors outperform emotional ones. Why steady careers outperform frantic ones. Why stable lifestyles outperform performative ones. Peace creates leverage. Now let's talk about the quiet courage peace requires. Choosing peace often means choosing less. Less stimulation, less urgency, less urgency, less validation. Less can feel like loss at first, but what you gain is depth. Depth of focus, depth of satisfaction, depth of resilience. Depth beats speed over time. Now let's talk about identity again. One final time. Many people tie identity to striving. If I'm not pushing, who am I? If I slow down, do I still matter? If I stop chasing, do I fall behind? Peace challenges that identity. It asks you to matter without motion. That's uncomfortable. But it's also liberating, because once your worth is no longer tied to progress, progress becomes optional, and therefore healthier. Now let's talk about financial peace specifically. Financial peace is not about never thinking about money. It's about not being controlled by it. It's about checking accounts without dread, making decisions without panic, experiencing fluctuations without catastrophe. That state doesn't come from more income alone. It comes from predictability, from margin, from systems that don't rely on constant effort. Now let's talk about time. Peace changes how time feels. When anxious, time feels scarce. When calm, time feels expansive. Scarcity thinking rushes decisions. Expansion allows patience, and patience is where compounding lives. Now let's talk about how peace changes goals. Goals become quieter, less performative, more personal. You stop chasing numbers to impress. You start choosing outcomes that support your life. This is when money finally aligns with values. Now let's talk about the final paradox. The people who seem ahead financially are often not the most aggressive. They're the most regulated. They didn't eliminate fear. They didn't eliminate ambition. They eliminated panic, and panic is the real enemy of wealth. Now let's talk about legacy, not inheritance, but imprint. What kind of relationship with money do you model? What kind of nervous system do you pass down? What kind of pace do you normalize? Peace is contagious. So is anxiety. Now let's close with the most important reframing of all. The question was never, how do I get rich? It was, how do I build a life where money doesn't dominate my emotional world? When you answer that honestly, your financial decisions change. They become quieter, slower, more deliberate, and paradoxically, more effective, because wealth built in chaos rarely lasts. But wealth built in peace compounds silently. So if you're early in your journey, don't rush. If you're mid-journey, don't panic. If you're successful and still restless, don't assume something is wrong with you. It just means peace hasn't been prioritized yet. And peace is a skill. It can be built, designed, protected, just like money. In fact, the two are deeply connected, not because money creates peace, but because peace allows money to finally work the way it's supposed to, in the background, without drama, without urgency, without fear. And when that happens, you realize something quietly profound. The goal was never wealth. It was freedom from inner noise. Money was just one of the tools, and peace was always the destination.